welcome to today's episode of Bump to Business Owner. I am your host, Caroline Marshall, and today we welcome Sophie David, founder of Little Happy Learners. Little Happy Learners launched in 2019 in a small house just outside London. She is a stay-at-home house mum, an ex-primary school teacher, and an early years specialist. Sophie has created a community of parents, carers, educators, and fun seekers. Their purpose is to share the wonderful ways you can play and learn with your little ones at home. LHL is here to share a way of life for all and the young children in your care by introducing some fun, exciting, and simple activities to make each day a success, especially if it involves recyclables and crafts. Not only has Sophie created a huge community, but she is also an author and a mum of 3. I can't wait to talk to Sophie about her niche, business growth, career journey, and how this works alongside raising a family. Welcome, Sophie.
Hello.
I feel like I particularly need you because I am not one, as my friends will all tell you, ever since before I had children, I am not one for crafts, making things. I actually outsource that to my mum a lot, but I think you might help me feel better about trying some bits. I think I should have spoken to you in 2020 as something I'm dying to talk to you about if it all kicked off for you during that time, because I can fully imagine it did. Now, I love talking to mums who have started their business, their career path that led to it. And I'm really interested in yours because I know we had a little conversation before the podcast started, is that a lot of teachers, sadly, do find when they have children, it's not like the right career for them at that stage. Hopefully they'll go back. We love our teachers. We don't want them leaving. But I also think it's nice to kind of present different ways they could be doing what they do at school, but doing it at home and making businesses from it. So tell us a bit about your career journey to getting here.
So I started Little Happy Learners after having my second son. So I was a primary school teacher, I was an early years specialist, and then I had my eldest son, he's 6. I was fully under the impression that I would go back to teaching. I absolutely loved my job. I was made to be a teacher. I genuinely believe that. So I definitely went off on maternity leave thinking, I'm going to come back part-time. I'm going to enjoy being a teacher. And it just wasn't the reality. It's so hard. If you want to be an amazing teacher, you don't turn off from it. It's just your brain can never switch off. So I found it really difficult doing both. But I went back to teaching pregnant with my second son. So yeah. My eldest was only 6 months old when I fell pregnant.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, it was.
Oh my goodness, so many questions.
Yeah.
Oh.
I loved being a mum, so I wanted to continue and have lots and lots of babies. Like I said to you a moment ago, before we started recording, I'd have more. I wouldn't stop if I had the choice, but my husband says no. But yeah, so I went back to teaching for only, I think it was about 3 months, and then I went off on maternity leave again. And then I decided having 2 boys under 2 was going to be too much. I couldn't do that and be a teacher. So I decided to make the decision to leave. The journey with Little Happy Learners didn't start straight away because I'd already started running a business doing baby massage. So when I was
had you? Oh, amazing.
Yeah, when I was pregnant with my second, I had educated myself. I'd gone on a course and I'd learned to be a baby massage instructor. So I'd started running sessions in my local area and I absolutely loved it. And then I decided that I wanted to do more. So I've always been a really creative person. So when I was a reception teacher, I was able to tap into that creativity and that was just my passion. So when I came away from it, I felt really sad because 1, I wasn't teaching anymore. And 2, I felt like a bit of a void. I was quite young when I had my 2 boys. There wasn't many of my friends that had children. And I was willing the day away for my husband to get home from work because this was pre-COVID and he was in the office every day. And I was willing the day away. And I then sat there one day and thought, I have to make this work for me. I have to be happy doing what I'm doing. How can I do this and be a mum at the same time? And Little Happy Learners was born. I thought, why not share and blog and share different ideas and try and build a community of mums that feel the same as me, because there must have been hundreds of mums, thousands of mums at home with their children thinking, what do I do with them? I
Yeah.
don't go out, I've got no money to go out, I've not got the time to go out, and they're stuck at home. So what can we do? And that's where it began.
I love that. And it shows, I love that your stage of life, you recognize you're like, I was just willing the day away. And I feel like so many mums, they would be like, oh, I shouldn't say that. I should be grateful with my 2 kids at home, or making out I'm really busy. And it's not. You were like, this, there's something else I should be doing here, and using what you've been used to doing your whole life before you became a mum.
I think also there's this narrative that if you're at home and you're a stay-at-home mum, that you are not using your brain. So I'd have people say to me, other mums, and I know they didn't mean it in a negative way, but being the person that I am, I took it quite negatively. And they'd say, I could never be a stay-at-home mum because I need to use my brain. And I would think, actually, no, I am using my brain because I'm having to think about all these different things that both of my children need. And if you are in the mindset that I am, I love to learn. So I've always got this thirst to know more. So I was researching until, the early hours sometimes about what I can do for each of my children at different stages, and how I could make sure that their sibling rivalry wasn't going to like burn a hole in their relationships for the rest of their lives. So I feel like that I took something that people were saying to me, and this whole negative connotations of being a stay-at-home mum, and I made it into something else for me and what worked for me. And I definitely never ever felt brain dead or that I wasn't doing enough. So I think it's just the
No.
way that you see things, and how you change it to make it positive. That's what I tried to do with Little Happy Learners.
Oh God, I'm so sorry you had those comments, because I can also say I'm going through a bit of a challenging time with my 3-year-old. And like I say, that's using my brain so hard at the minute, because obviously managing my emotions, and that's brain work, but also like thinking and looking up and researching ways to get out of this stage kind of thing, because it's been going on
Absolutely.
for quite a while now. So God, people say the worst things. And I think also it's probably that isn't even their fear of being a stay-at-home mum, of the brain part. And that's like what people have been saying, like it's like become acceptable to say it like that. But it's more about the fact that caring, looking after others isn't treated with the same respect as earning money, is probably what we also know as the actual truth. And that's just a society thing, not a individual thing either.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I feel like it was never meant in like like a mean way, or
No.
they weren't trying to be nasty. I think it's just exactly what you're saying. We deem going out and having a career and a job as just something that we look up to, and that's what we inspire to do, don't we? Um we want to be a professional, but I think you can do that in so many different aspects. It doesn't have to be going out to work and doing it. So many mums are doing it from their homes now, and it's just what you make of it, isn't it? And how you see it, and being successful looks different to everybody.
That's a really good one as well. And it's like you've gone out and started something to achieve your own success, and within what makes you feel happy. And so let's talk about your motherhood journey a little bit, in the sense that because you'd worked in the early years, especially reception teacher, did you say? Did you think, oh, I kind of get this whole motherhood thing, I'll be fine? Or-
Absolutely not. No. I think being a teacher, so I'm trained to be a primary school teacher, so I can teach all the way up to age 11. And I taught predominantly in reception. I worked with preschools across my borough. And yeah, absolutely, I did not have a clue. So once I was handed this tiny baby, I genuinely thought, I haven't, this is just out of my realms of understanding, which is with my eldest, he really struggled and had lots of tummy complaints, and he had reflux, and he was a really needy baby. He's still a bit of a needy 6-year-old, and I think he's quite happy to admit that as well. We always say that he would crawl back in if he could. But
Oh,
he was
I
a
think
bit.
my second is like that. He'll just he'd quite happily just sometimes be on
Oh,
me.
absolutely. He gets in my 6-year-old gets in my bed every night still now,
Oh.
crawls in just for a hug and then goes back to his own. And I think I found it really difficult because, like you say, being an early years teacher, I genuinely did think, oh, I'll be able to do this. It's fine. I know kids. But you don't. You don't know kids because their kids are all different. Every child is different. and especially your own. And it's true what they say. I can command a class of 30, but give me my free any day. They're a challenge. They act differently with their parent, don't they? And they do. So no, I definitely didn't feel like an expert. And I've always used my community like they use me. I like to learn from them. I'm always asking questions from the people in my phone, and I constantly use their expert advice, because I genuinely believe that we can learn from each other so much more than we know or feel that we know in ourselves. I'm always questioning everything that I do.
And well, we had it here first then. Yeah, definitely. It's harder to control your own children than a class of 30. Thank you for
Absolutely.
reassuring us. But gosh, I can't remember what I was going to say on that point also. But and I also think there's so much, I think we're starting to, but I don't know if it's because we're mums now and we're in that world that I think this, but starting to also get more of an understanding. It's not just about the kids, it's about how we change, and you not like just starting with hormones and pregnancy, but how nothing can prepare you for that. You weren't taught in a classroom what the mother's change, what the mother's going through.
No, and I think also you go through so much in that especially with your first. I always say, people ask me all the time what transition I found the hardest, like going from 2 to 3 or 3 or 1 to 2. But my hardest transition was going from none to one, because
Mm.
that's when you do the most changing as a parent, I think. I went from loving my job and thinking that was, the most important part of me, to then being at home and realizing that I was needed so much more there than I was ever going to be needed in a school. It just changed. The shift in me changed completely. I never ever thought I would say that I'm going to be a stay-at-home mum. And I think that it's hard, isn't it? Because then I've done another shift, because I've definitely moved away from being stay-at-home mum.
I was going to say, do you still identify as being a stay-at-home mum? Because it looks like you've got this empire that you've built.
Yeah, it's really hard, because I think that's just my nature. To If someone was to say to me, "Oh, how's little happy to learners doing?" I go, "Yes, great, thank you," and I nod.
I do the same as well. God, we need to be better at beginning. We need to go to a
Oh,
session where we talk
yeah.
about.
That's my one goal for this year. I said it, that I need to start being, I need to be driven and tell people. And I am so driven in the business sense, but I think I need to own it a bit more, because yeah, I think that a stay-at-home mum status did leave me quite a long time ago, because now I'm definitely juggling a work-life balance and having my kids at home. But what I would say is that I still feel very privileged in the fact that I can run this business and be there for my children. So I do every
Yeah.
school pickup. I'm there for morning and afternoon. I'm still making dinners from scratch, which I know is so difficult for so many parents that are having to juggle the 9 till 5. So I'd say that I have both. I am a working mum from home because I
Working
can
mum.
manage to fit it in. I say privilege, but most of my evenings are spent working. So I just do it in a different pattern to other people.
That's it. And I think it's that clear understanding and honesty that you aren't just squeezing it into the school day. And also, how old's your youngest as well?
3.
3. So yeah, he's not quite at school, is he? I don't know if he's
Yeah,
on
so
school
she
hours.
she
Oh,
doesn't go.
she, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, she doesn't go to school, so she doesn't go to nursery or preschool either. She won't go until September, so she's with me 24/7. So right now, my husband works from home as well, and he's sat downstairs with his laptop working while she's playing next to him. But so there's definitely a juggle, and we try and fit it in as much as we can. But with things like this, I will make time for, but generally in the day, I try to do most of my work in the evenings.
Yeah. And I think it's great to have that refreshing honesty of like, oh, I squeeze it between the kids when it's not your 3-year-old. We know what a 3-year-old is like, what the attention they need, and the school run, and you're taking her with you on that, and juggling it all. So it is good to know like that's when you do your work and you've managed to build this amazing business using your skills, which is why I think it's so inspiring, because you've taken the skills you already had and made it into a business. And so you launched in 2019. Was there an explosion for you in 2020 is what I'm dying to know, because I've only, come aware of you the past year or so. So I wasn't there at that stage. I'm probably too busy figuring out what to do with my own. So I'd love to understand, like, yeah, was this explosion for your business and the need for it more so, do you think?
during COVID times, no.
Oh,
Surprisingly,
interesting.
it worked that way for so many others. So weirdly, when I first started Little Happy Learners, I genuinely, this is not a lie, I genuinely believed I was the only one doing this. I was like, I need to share the things I'm doing at home with my children. There's no one doing this. And then I started doing it and I realized there's so many people doing it. It's called the Play Community on Instagram. So there's a whole plethora of all these different people sharing what they do with their kids. So honestly, it was a huge eye opener. I thought, wow, I thought I was going to be really niche, and it's not. So that opened my eyes to that. But I know for lots of people during COVID, when everyone was stuck at home, they had a real big boost. And I'd say it probably did go from maybe below 100,000 to over 100,000. But my growth has gone crazy since September, just gone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was
Amazing.
on in September, I was on 170,000 on social media, and now I'm on 745. So
Oh my
that,
goodness.
yes, in 6 months. So
Yeah.
my burst in engagement did not happen during COVID. And if I'm honest, during COVID, I had a community of people that we were constantly in conversations. We constantly, I was putting stuff out there, content, and it definitely was getting engagement, but yeah, it didn't explode until recently. And I think even my book was in 2022, so 2 years ago, and that's post COVID. So yeah, it's lots of, it didn't happen during COVID, no.
Yeah. No, I love that. And it's just good because it also shows while you've had a period of extreme growth, you've been working on this since 2019. So
Yeah.
overnight growth isn't overnight. Just to say. It never is. And I love that reality. And why do you think it's picked up since September? Have you changed anything about it? Kind of, enhanced anything? Do you think there's anything just think it's really always good to share or like for
Yeah,
you to
and
reflect on?
absolutely. And it's hard to, so I think people ask me this all the time, and it's hard to pinpoint one thing. But so in if being completely honest with you, it was in the summer last year, I'd lost my mojo for so long. I had just lost this interest, and I didn't know why. So my daughter is very different to my boys. My boys would just come along for the ride and do whatever I wanted to do with them. We would craft and do everything. And so I had all this content that I could just put out there. My daughter is a completely different kettle of fish. She will only do what she wants to do. So I think I found that like I lost my mojo for quite a long time because she just wanted to do the same things every day, and she just loves bossing me around. If I can be her sort of doctor every day, she'd have me doing that. So I think I'd just lost my mojo. But I said to my husband, I had the summer off, and I said, I'm going to go all in from September. I'm going to give it the next year until my daughter goes to preschool. And if it doesn't pick up, then I'm going to go back into the classroom, I think. And lo and behold, you put all the effort in, it happens. So I
Yeah.
think I've just been consistent with posting. I've got a real vision of what it is that I want to do now. And I think having that real mindset of this is what I want my business to look like has really changed the whole output and then what I'm getting back. So yeah, I think it's just having a real specific view of what you want it to look like, and being clear with that, which I don't think I ever was before. I always just saw
Yeah.
myself as a stay-at-home mum that was using this as a hobby, whereas now I see it as I'm pushing forward with the business side of it, and I want to do more. So I
I love
think,
that. So you came to this, so you took a break in the summer and set yourself a timeline,
yeah.
set yourself some goals, and it exploded basically. Is that basically where we got to? And are you able to share with us what your vision is?
Yeah, so I think I sat down with my husband and he said, "What is it that you want from this, Sophie? Like you just need to be really clear." And
Mm.
I always say we, whenever I talk about Little Happy Learners, I say we. It is me doing all of the everything that I put out there, but my children are very much, they have so much control about what I'm putting out there. They are involved in videos. They love being involved in them, especially with the
Oh,
phonics ones. They're fully involved. It's as much me as it is them. But also my husband is, I always call him the silent partner because he definitely helps me plan it all out and make it
I had Yeah, I had a mentor would call them, they are a stakeholder in your business essentially, because they're invested in your success as your life partner. They might not have anything to do with the business incomings, outgoings, things like that, but you're always going to bounce stuff off them, aren't you?
Yeah, and he's amazing as well. So he spends many an evening sitting planning stuff out with me and saying, you need to do this, you need to do that. So he's very, very good. So he just sat and said, what is your vision? And I said, my main goal, and it always has been, is that I want to create a space for parents to just come and have a look. So this is the free side of it, the social media side of it. I want parents to be able to come to Little Happy Learners and look at all of the posts, and I want them to be able to find anything on my page that will give them 15 minutes of connection with their child. My drive is to create those little moments with our children that can take a really rubbish afternoon that you think, oh my gosh, they won't stop crying, or they're just really whingy, or they're really tired. Take that afternoon and make it better, because all they need is 10 minutes of your time, and that's
Mm,
it. And it changes the whole day. So I wanted that to be the free side of it, but I also want to be able to give parents and some educators, so preschools and nurseries are so underfunded. They do not get the training and the opportunities to go on training courses like any other educator, and they are with our children for so many hours of the day that they need to feel empowered to be able to teach them and to push them on. So I want to, as a business, be able to empower parents and educators to have a toolbox, a toolkit of information that will help them to teach their children and lead them on to the next learning stage. So if that's through phonics or through maths or through anything. So I have different courses. At the moment, we're only running maths and phonics, but I have lots of things in the pipeline ready to go forwards that will be able to support any parent or educator in any area that they want to.
mm.
So that's the business side of it, I think. We're still underpinning things at the moment.
Well, and that's the beauty of a business. It changes, things do. And thank you for sharing with us. And I love what you said, because it really is that whole feeling empowered that 10 minutes can change the day. So just to open up, I went through a really bad phase. My second was very sick, and when he came home as a baby, it was like we were attached, we were glued. And then I had issues with me and my eldest, and he wouldn't go to bed very well, he was struggling, and I had a sleep trainer, and she was like, you need to do one-on-one playtime with him when he's back from nursery every day. And it made the world of difference. And it wasn't that long, but it was just like, and I felt really stupid, like as the mum in it. But I look
Yeah.
back on me and I was going through all that stuff, of course that happened, I just needed someone
Cool.
external to say it.
Yeah. But also, it's not I think it's really hard in those moments when your child is the neediest, and when they're having a tantrum, and when they're showing up in different ways, aren't they? They're showing all these emotions. Our natural response is to just think, what can I do? I don't know what to do. And you just think of that moment, and you think of it as just one moment of the day that they're having a tantrum about. But it's not. There's so many things that are built into that moment that if we got there, if we intercepted before they got to that, it might have been able to have stopped that tantrum. And I've only learned that since my middle child is middle child, and he's definitely needy in terms of my time.
Mm,
He's needy and wants that one-to-one time. So every day after school, he loves cooking. Every day he comes in and prepares dinner with me, and that's his
mm.
time. And my other two know that. My other two will get on and they'll play with something, or they'll watch something on the TV, but that's his time. He prepares dinner with me, he gets up on his step up, and he knows that that's his time. And that's where he can unwind. He sits there and he chops things and chats with me. And
Oh, that's so
it's
lovely.
amazing. And that just that 10 minutes, he then will be able to go off and play independently, and he can spend 2 hours after that doing whatever he wants. But because he's had that moment with me, it's filled his cup. I
Yeah.
read something, and this was back when I had my two boys under two, and I was finding it really difficult. They both very different, very different. And I read something, and it was said, I'm trying to remember exactly what it said, but it said, when your child comes up to you and says, can you play with me? That's basically them asking you to talk. That's asking for their time. And so instead of seeing it as, oh no, go and play with yourself or try and be independent. You need to just turn to them and say, okay, let's go and play. And often that time when they're playing with you is when they will tell you whatever is on their mind. They offload and they give you all that information. And I've used that from the moment I read it, because it's even after school. I never ask my children how their day was when I pick them up. I always wait until we're doing something together, and that's when they'll tell me everything. And it makes so much sense. It's almost like adults, we're told to go for a walk and talk, and it's much
Yeah,
easier.
yeah,
But
yeah.
as children,
Like a walking meeting. Yeah.
yeah. And they're supposed to be way more beneficial for us because we can just talk and not think about it. It's the same with them. They'll just be playing or drawing and painting, and that's when they're able to get everything off their chest. So I think it's really important just to get that 10 minutes in. So that's my aim for the social media side of things, to try and give parents and carers and educators that toolkit to be able to go to and go, okay, I can do that, and that's my 10 minutes, and
Yeah.
that will fill everyone's cup.
I love that. And it was because I remember one thing that also helped me as well, because she was talking about when my husband was away at work, so it was just me. So I couldn't even physically have one-on-one time with my older one because the baby was there. It would be like, say to the baby, this is Rafe's time now. You just sit there. And even though he's a baby, so he didn't know, it was like Rafe, my eldest, would then be like, yes, this is my time now. So he knew I was making an effort, even if I
Yes,
couldn't physically
empowering him.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm going to learn so much from you. I know it. So tools for the younger one now. I've done. I got through that stage of the older one. I'm now onto the younger one where I'm trying to figure this stuff out. And it's interesting because even now, stuff I'm getting ideas and thoughts about it. But I'm like, you think, oh, I've done this with the first one. Why don't I think about
It's so
this in the
different.
second?
So
Yeah,
different.
they're
All three of
different.
mine. Yeah, all three of mine are completely different. So I've had to learn just ways to deal with all three of their emotions differently, because I can't believe they've all been brought up the same, but are so different.
Yeah. And that was it. Because I remember, I think, was it our parents' generation were a bit more like, oh, I parented you all equally. And now we're a bit more like, you shouldn't be parent. They all have different needs. Or sometimes they feel like they're the independent one, and that's the one you need to give something to, because you don't want them to just think they should be that might be something they think about. That was something I read recently as well, which gave me a few thoughts about my first child.
Yeah, and it's really hard, isn't it? Because I read lots, and it's about them, the where they are in the family. So first, middle, and baby, and how we parent differently for those things. So I'm always really aware of that. I'm one of five girls, so I always think back to that and think, where did I fit in my family? And so I was fourth, and so I try
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, so I try not to think a bit like, but my middle child does show many signs of being a middle child. But lots of people say that with their middle, that's the one that gets the least amount of attention. But with him, he definitely gets the most. And I think that's because he commands the most. So
Mm,
he just wants to have that time with us every day. And that's fair. He doesn't like the TV, so he won't go and watch the TV ever. Whereas my eldest, he likes to have his downtime, so he will go and sit and watch something on the TV. And
yeah.
my youngest, well, she's just completely different.
And I also love how I think that'd be really helpful, because I think sometimes you just externally, if you go on someone's feed, it can look really slick and put together. But for you to say, my third came along and didn't want to do any of this stuff that my boys would do, which helped your business. And so it's kind of interesting to hear that, to be like, okay, great. So, we're not super women. We have to organize something else that has brought a challenge to it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things that I always, so if I ever do a Q&A, I think so I will always get at least 3 or 4 people saying, how do you do it all? And I always go back and I answer it privately, because I never want those parents to feel like I am doing it all. It's very easy for social media to portray that everything's just going swimmingly, but there's a lot of stuff that I won't share on social media, like the things that my children are going through individually. But obviously they go through so much, and we can't do it all, and we can't manage everything at the same time. So sometimes social media has to fall by the wayside when I've got more going on with the business. And I think it's just in our natural way now as parents to feel like we have to be doing everything all the time. And
Yeah.
that's so challenging, because we're running businesses, we're working, we're being the mums that need to be cooking and getting processed food out of our diets, and we're trying to do everything, and it's so hard. And I think it's easy for any social media channel to look like we're just doing it and it's really easy, but it's absolutely not. I don't find it easy. Having 3 kids, like I say, they're all so different. It is hard. I find
Yeah.
it hard too.
And when they start school, you've got, things you need to keep up on top of for their school. I'm just saying this, it's March at the time, so we're going through World Book Day, we've got Easter holidays coming up, and it's a lot kind of thing. I've only got one at school at the minute. I dropped some balls this week. Got his school bag yesterday. I gave myself
Oh,
such a hard time. But I was like, oh gosh, well, I'm sure my eldest is the sort of child that learns from that sort of thing and won't forget it. And today I was like, got my school bag, mum. And I'm like,
you're like, yes.
maybe we needed this. This was a rite of passage to make you independent.
100%. And I think it almost gives you that chance to go to them. Well, actually, it's not just me that needs to remember it. You need to remember it too. And I think we have to learn from was I once sent my son in and I swore as a teacher I would never ever do this. I sent him in his uniform when it was a own clothes day.
Oh no. Oh,
And
poor
I
thing.
honestly, I think I've done well. I think I must have been unwell or something. I'm gonna put it down to being unwell. And my husband had taken him that day, and then he rang me and was like, everyone else is in their own clothes and he's not.
Oh, poor
Honestly,
poppet.
I don't think I let myself get over that for at least 2 weeks. But I will never ever forget them again. I have everything written on a calendar. We have to learn from these things.
So yeah, that's why I started bringing in a days in the week calendar just to try and start that, because my eldest just will never, they always try and teach independence. He is one who's naturally less independent on that side. So other side, he'll go off on his own, make friends, do whatever he wants. But when it comes to thinking about things, he's just not that independent. So I'm like, physical, need it there. So I could say, go look at the chart. Own clothes day, sort yourself out.
Get yourself dressed, please.
Yeah. Oh, bless. I love that. It's all about sharing mistakes and things and what we've done. So we've both shared them together of our things this week. And if you look, because we talk about a lot about your social following, that's where your business started. So how has that changed what it looked like in 2019 to now? Because from then to here, I remember in 2020 was when all the reels came out and things. Did that feel like a lot more pressure as well to
Yeah.
do you do in a different way?
Absolutely. So when I look back on my account back then, it was all stills, and that was so much easier in a way. It's all hard because you've just got to keep on keeping up, and it's difficult when everything's changing. But yeah, it was hard to transition from doing videos, but I really enjoy it. I really enjoy doing flat lays, and I really enjoy shooting content. That's my favorite. So when I work in the evenings for any writing that I do or any work that I do that's like courses, but I do my content with my children, so they see it all. So we have a flat lay, and sometimes it's their hands doing it, sometimes it's
Oh.
we bake and I shoot with them, so they're
Mm.
fully involved in all of that, and we do it in real time. So I try and make it as enjoyable as possible whilst we're doing it. They love it because they get to see it afterwards all sped up and they think it's magic, so it's great. But we do shoot content during the day. But I think that because you're doing it with videos, it's quite easy just to shoot. I just have like a thing that holds my phone and it shoots it for me. So yeah, I don't think it's the editing side of it that's the most challenging, the most time consuming, but
Yeah.
you just get used to it after a while, don't you? But it looked very different from in the beginning, very different. Now I feel like you have to be a bit more slick to get seen, I suppose. But
Yeah, you have to be slick from the start when you need to I think the thing is, it's like performing. It's so public. That's what I say about this. It's not like if you're a writer and you can write in your home, do all the tweaks, and then you've got to go to a publisher and all of this. But it is so like you've just got to put it out there to
yeah,
see
and if it
what
goes well,
fails and what does well.
yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes you have no idea why something has done well, but people seem to catch on to it.
Yeah, well, so recently I had a phonics video. So this is what's blown up my account from being quite small, not small, but relatively small to now being what it is. Was just one phonics video. And I can honestly tell you, I've shared this phonics video maybe 6 or 7 times during my time on social media. And we've just done it slightly differently, but it's exactly the same. I shared it. And when I say I was sat in my car, taking the boys to football, my husband drove, and I was sitting there trying to get it out because I try and get a post out every day. I'd forgotten. I think I'd like got up late and I'd edited it really quickly. It's gone out, and it was seen by 30 million people. Like, you
Oh,
cannot write what's going to do well or not. I can
yeah.
spend an hour editing a video and then it do not very well.
Mm.
And then I spend 5 minutes in the car on the way to football getting this one
30
video out.
million.
Yeah, and it's the one that's done the best on my account ever.
And I think everyone else thinks, because obviously your account on the front looks very slick, but to hear the work that goes behind it, and that you're also still just in a car with your husband driving, doing the football run or whatever, going, shit, I'm late doing
I've
this.
got to get it done. Yeah, exactly. That is
You
it.
heard it here. Happy
Yeah,
Little Learners is no
honestly,
different.
me in the school run, I've not even got my makeup done. I've got my hair on top of my head going, oh, God, I'm late. And Scott to send. And it does, it looks slick, but you know, this is me sat in the evening in my pajamas editing a video whilst I'm trying to watch some sort of series with my husband. So it is just me doing it on a whim in the evening, hoping it's going to come out and people get to see
And like I
it.
said, it's repeating a phonics video you've done 6 or 7 times, just in a slightly different way.
Yeah, and it was with my daughter, and I even sped it up slightly. So when I listen back to it, I think the voice sounds really strange because it's obviously sped up slightly. So I listen to it back and think I would never post this again if I wasn't in such a rush. But it got seen by that many people. It's still being seen now, and it's still constantly getting people to follow my pages. So odd. You can't write.
Perhaps Instagram thought it was authentic content because it was sped up and clearly rushed, and you were like, yeah, let's send the raw stuff out.
This is great. Go for it. It was so odd. I think it's also just, I don't know. I think maybe the pressure, maybe it was the time. I don't know. You can't write it. People ask all the time, how do you make something go viral? And I honestly have been doing it for 5 years and I can't tell you.
Good to know. Also, you heard it here first. And I was going to ask also just something interesting my son said. What do your kids say you do for a living?
Oh yeah, do you know what? They'll say little happy learners. They
Oh,
love,
really?
yeah, so they would say, if someone said, what does your mummy do? My son recently said, you've got the best job in the world. You get loads of toys because I had some toys sent to us and he thinks that's brilliant. But I
Oh,
think they would just say little happy learners. Mummy works at home and she has little happy learners.
oh, I love that, because I realized I'm trying to educate my son more on it, because I went to school recently for like a little crafts thing, and they were like, "Oh, Rafe says you work in a tall building," and I was like, "No, I work from home." And they were like, yeah," and they were like, "What does your mum do?" Who like works in wellness, and I was like, "No, I don't do that."
Not true.
A corporate yoga teacher, I translated it as, but I'm glad he thinks my commitment to well-being is that good. I made a job from it, but
It's quite cute. I like that.
but I was just like, right, I clearly need to do a better job at this of explaining what mummy does. And now it earns money. And I'm like, yeah, I'll take that.
I'm going to ask my children tonight and see what they say.
Yeah, it's a great question. I feel like we should all ask that and put it on our
I'll
social.
put it on my social media tonight. What does mummy do for a job? And I think one of them will say she doesn't have a job.
Oh,
And then I think the other one will say little happy learners is her job. And then my daughter, I don't know what she'd say.
doctor.
I'm interested.
Doctor, after playing doctors so much. She cooks for me.
Like, is that chef?
I love that. And it, what I love as well is we talked about, you got your goal, you got your focus, and that's why things have gone really well, like this past half a year. Has there anything you've been focused on that has been quite like a shiny, maybe ego-driven thing? I think as business owners or in the social media world, it's very easy to be like, oh, I'll do this. And then it's like not actually, like, for example, years ago when I was struggling with the workplace, I was like, Greg, I'm going to write a blog. And he was like, you don't write, Caroline. And he's right. He was absolutely right. He was, but I had to go at him for like not supporting
Not
me.
supporting your blogging passion.
Yeah. And now I have someone else who writes my blogs. That's how much I don't write blogs. He was,
Yeah.
is there anything you've been like, oh, I should do this because other people do and it wasn't the right thing for you to do?
Do you know what? I don't know. I think there's always things that you sort of jump on, isn't there? And you think, but I don't know if there is business wise, actually. Social media wise, I always try and get on board with different things that people are doing. So I try and keep up to date. But yeah, no, I don't think so. I don't think I'm really scared of putting myself out there. So I tend to stay where I'm at and I try and be really comfortable in what I'm doing. So I did start doing courses and I charge you see courses, people offer courses online all the time. And I'd see some people charging like 400, 500 pounds for a course. And I would think, oh, that's really expensive. So when I first started putting courses out, I charged 20 pounds, which is not a lot. And I never wanted it to be expensive, but I also knew I was never going to charge 400, 500 pounds, because that's not, I want as many people to access what I'm doing as possible.
Yeah.
So I made it 20 pounds, but what I've since learned is that if I want to get people to come and educate themselves in how they can support their children at home, I need to either offer it for free, which is what I do the majority of the time. I'd say 85% of what I do is free. And then now I run courses and I do them for £5 per person, and
Oh,
which is really, really cheap. But in a business mind, since we're talking about business, I now get hundreds of people signing up to a £5 course rather than 50 people joining up for £20. So from a business sense, it's changed drastically because I'm getting more and more people doing it, which for me, I think business wise, I flip very much between wanting to do things to make a difference and wanting to grow a business. So I have to try and make that work. And I feel like I've now found a way that I can make it work, that I feel like I'm offering so much for £5
mm,
that people sign up. So yeah, I don't know. I've not tried many things at the moment. I think on the business side of things, I'm still very much at the beginning.
yeah.
So I've probably got a lot of time where I will try things and it won't work.
I love that. And that's really open to say you're still at the beginning on the business side of things and getting there. And like you said, your goal is to reach as many people as possible and support as many people as possible. It kind of reminds me of the Positive Birth Company. That's like, she has a similar goal for her hypnobirthing courses, is the fact they're meant to be realistic for people to get. And I always think, because I sometimes see it from the other side with, as a VA business owner and also talking to people, you may see people charging something and the reality is they're actually not, or they might be charging that for one person and then the rest of the stuff doesn't meet that level at all. We've all got to take it with a healthy pinch of salt. While people have said they've put stuff out there for a certain cost, are they getting the customers?
Yeah, because they can't, but that's too, it's unaffordable. And
Mm,
especially in terms of parenting, because I am still in that parenting umbrella, and it's education and parenting, but people are, I don't know if that's something that people want to put that much money into, because
yeah,
as much as we all want to be the best parents we can, there's so much information out there. And what I think that I now offer is just one part of the information, but I've tried to learn and research everything so I can give you a lot of information for that small price. And it stops you from having to do all of that research and sort of siphoning through what you
yeah.
enjoy and what you don't.
And you're
Yeah,
putting a value on what you do as well, which you should, but you're also bringing it to people that need it in a cost of living crisis,
yeah,
a bit of a crisis in the education system with overcrowding, not enough funding, and giving support for parents that's affordable, which
yeah,
makes sense to me.
absolutely.
Um, Lovely. And so what would be your advice for someone who, like you, has a teaching background, starting to learn, early years specialist, starting to learn that this might not be right for parenthood, at least in the early years, and thinking of doing something else? Is there any advice you can share with them that made you start going down this route with little happy learners?
So it's really hard because I think the education sector, um, obviously you've put yourself into like a little category, haven't you, of education, that if you're really passionate about education, then you want to stay in that category. I'm very passionate about education. I'm very passionate about teaching, and I'm very passionate about what children can learn at home. Like, parents are their biggest role models. So I personally think as a teacher, you have so many skills that you're taught. The organization skills are next to none when you're a teacher. So even just that one small area is huge in any career. So my advice is that just because we are in this category of education doesn't mean that we have to stay there. We have so many skills as teachers and educators that we could pretty much do anything, and I do believe that. When you're a teacher, you have to have so many different hats on, and you're taught to analyze data. You're taught to run a class of 30 children, which I'm pretty sure means that you can run any team of adults ever. Because
Oh yes.
yeah, there's just so many different skills that you learn in that time of being a teacher. So my advice is, don't think that you can't do anything else. Don't think that that's just the one thing that you can do for the rest of your life, because you can use those skills in lots of different ways. But in terms of coming out of teaching and then going into something education based, I don't want to tell you that with rose tinted glasses that it's really easy, because it's not. And I think that's where I find it difficult to stay on track and to keep my passion alive. So I'm so passionate about teaching that I want to continue that, but it would be so easy for me now to become a social media influencer, because I have the following now. I could so easily go, I'm not going to do that anymore, and I'm just going to start influencing, because it's hard. It's really hard to stay on this education track when there's a lot more opportunities elsewhere. Being in education and not being a teacher is difficult. So because I'm so passionate about it, I will continue to do that, because that's what I feel like is my calling. That's what I love the most. And I'm not as passionate about influencing as I am about education. So,
and that's lovely, because it's shown you've not gone, that is the shiny thing you could have gone for, and start getting partnerships, things sent you. Your kids could have got more toys sent to you, I'm sure, than you've got, because you will only put out ones that are right for education, by the right for what your purpose, let's call it your purpose.
Okay, yeah, that is actually, it's very true, because I say no to lots and lots now because it doesn't fit with what I do. And I think that's really important, to stay true to what you believe in. I don't accept gifted things, because I don't want my children to feel like they just get everything. I want them to have a value in having things around them, and I want them to know that you have to work for it. So I feel like getting lots of free things and being like, look, you've got this now, it's too much. So I don't accept gifted things, and I only take on partnerships with brands that I really do truly think feed into my brand and what my family are all about. So yeah, that is my shiny thing that I've not done then.
Yay, well done. And I think that's so great to know, and sometimes people need to hear, because if you're going in a crossroads at somewhere, and also so valuable what you said about, don't just feel like you have to keep to the education path if it's not right for you, because I know a fantastic virtual assistant agency owner, and she's an ex-teacher and only hires ex-teachers because she understands their skills and what they do. And I'm speaking to a lady on this podcast called Lauren of Web3, and she's like trying to support women getting into Web3, and even if their background isn't in it. So there's a whole other host of things, but like you said as well, it's not easy, I think, is what we can say. If you're trying to pivot your career isn't easy, full stop, but let's just add that extra layer when you've got little ones or kids. I don't, because I haven't got neither of us here have got past the age of 6 yet, so we're not sure what that's like. But that'll be even harder, won't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think coming out, it's really hard, isn't it? I think being a woman is very difficult, especially when you then go on and off and have children. I think we have a very different mindset when we're working to then when you're a parent, that then to realize that you have to map out a new path for yourself. I definitely wasn't aware that that was even something that I was going to have to consider. So I think when it then comes to it, I think it's taken me a really long time, well, 6 years nearly, to realize what it is that I want to do and how I want to get there. I genuinely believe that I just wanted to write books and I wanted to be an author, and now I believe that there's so much more that I want to do. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I think it's hard in whatever career you have to then map out a new path for you, especially if you are driven and you have a viewpoint that you want to make a difference. I think it's really difficult to then know how you can do that.
I love that. And actually, I feel like you're really helping me on my bump to business owner journey and what to do with that path. So I'm definitely learning from you, as we're at the beginning of the journey with this, still like not in its first year yet. And I think, yeah, I also do think it's a little element of privilege. Like if you've come from a privileged background, about talking about having a career, and like, yeah, obviously when they're teenagers, they don't want to talk to us about having babies because they don't want us to do that yet. They want us to have the career, and then we get it and we're like, oh, but it doesn't quite work, sadly.
Yeah. And I think also it's worth always thinking that you can try and fit your career into your family life. I've just recently listened to another podcast, and it was talking about how relationships and family are the most important thing. It was quite a morbid chat, and it said about someone being on their deathbed and they never remembered all the things that they
Mm,
achieved, but who they were with in that last moment. And that really resonates with me, because I think the reason why I've started this is because I want to make sure that I can have the best of both worlds. And I know that's not something that everyone can do, but for business owners especially, I think we need to try and make it work for us in the best way possible. For some people, sitting in the evenings is not, and working is not something they want to do. But for me, if it means that I can be there at school pickup, and I can go to the parents' evening and do all of the things,
mm.
then that's what's most important to me.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's easy to get bogged down in business ownership and things like that and think, oh, it's hard. But then at the same time, it's such a privilege if you can do what we both try to do, which is to do the pickups, to make all the school things, and we still forget things in the meantime, clearly. But I think it's such a privilege, and we're very lucky, which I always try and remind myself about. And that's, what I set out to do when I'm tired I take mummy days still and on a Wednesday, and when I'm tired after a mummy day, because they're more work than my work days. And I have a personal question for you in the evenings, because what I'm starting to discover is I get a bit brain dead by the evenings. So I'm having to shift up the work I do in the evenings if I do work in the evenings, which I do most of the time, but I try and not always. But I have to do stuff that isn't really thinking because I'm so tired. So how do you manage that? Or is it is that where all your creative ideas flow out and you're lucky?
Yeah, I feel like because I love what I do in the evenings, like the writing side of it is definitely something I love. I love writing. I love putting all my ideas down. So in terms of the creativity, I try and get all the ideas down on paper during the day. So I have a notebook that I just have out all the time, and I just write stuff down.
Amazing.
And then in the evenings, I just have to write it. And I don't know why and I don't know how, but in the evenings, it tends to I can just sit down and I have nothing else to think about. So I can
Mm,
just get it. I know that I've done the washing, and I know that the kids are in bed, so I don't have to even think about them. And that's when I find that the writing side of me becomes most productive, is in the evenings. But I know that that wouldn't be the case for everybody. I have a
yeah.
strange brain that doesn't turn off until I tell it to turn off.
I love it. No, and it's about finding your pattern and what works for you. And I find my pattern a work in progress still. But you're 5 years in and kind of getting into a bit of flow, and I'm sure it'll change up again at some point, like it always does. Lovely. And honestly, I could chat for ages, Sophie. This has been so lovely. What is next for you and Happy Little Learners?
So,
Sorry, Little Happy Learners.
yeah.
I'm going to repeat that. What's next for you and Little Happy Learners?
Well, lots of things. We've got lots more courses that are going to come out in the next year. I like to plan things quarterly. So I'm coming to the end of March now, and I've met all of my targets. So I wanted to get new phonics courses out there, which I'm doing. So I do a preschool course, and I now do a reception course. And we're doing a maths course. First one's running tonight. And then as of next quarter, I'm aiming to get some different courses out there. So I know people have been asking for like a gross motor and fine motor workshop, a speech and language workshop, and just different courses, and hopefully new books, because books are so hard. The book deals are already, like, I've got a literary agent, and I've always got him with different
Oh,
proposals that he's sending off, because I don't know why, but I've made that the passion, and that's the passion project that has to happen. So that hopefully will come soon as well. But
love
yeah.
that. Let's push your other book then. So where can people find your other book? So then that go get some sales and get your next book out there.
So my first book is called How to Create Little Happy Learners, and you can find it on Amazon. You can find it in Waterstones, pretty much anywhere where you buy your books. If you want to, you can go to the library and you can hire it at a library. But it is a book that has 60 activities for children aged 0 to 5. But all of those activities can be adapted for every age group from 0 to 5. So in actual fact, there might be 60 activities, but they can be done 5 different ways. And it covers everything. That's messy play, baking, maths, phonics, lots of different things. And you can find it on Amazon. I think it's on Amazon for £14.50.
Love it. Love it. Good promoting that. And where can we find you?
So you can find me on social media. So I have an Instagram page called Little Happy Learners. And you can also now find me on YouTube. So I've only just started that. That's something new that started, I think, at the beginning of January, and I share phonics videos on there. So if you have a letter that you are learning, your child's learning at school, and they may be they're struggling on it, you can go onto YouTube and you can watch a video with me and my children exploring that sound. So how you can sound and blend with it, how you can segment for spelling, and just how you can explore that sound together.
As someone who's in year 1 at school, hearing blend, there's all this stuff because I'm not education background. It was all new to me last year of phonics, blending, new style phonics. I was like, what is this world? So I wish I found you a year ago, but I'm going to start now and make sure I'm well set up for my second child.
Hey. Yeah, so on YouTube, we're going to start doing all of the digraphs next. So all of the 2 letters that make one sound, so that you've just got somewhere you can go, and then you and your child can just look at that video. They're only 2 minutes long and you can watch them on your TV. So my children now just sit and watch themselves sometimes to do phonics. Great.
And they'll be like, doesn't everyone do this? I love it. They'll grow up totally thinking, oh, I'm going to do what mummy does and be on YouTube.
On YouTube, that's what my son says, is I'm going to be a YouTuber. I'm like, oh no, maybe I'm a little bit higher than YouTube, please.
Yeah, or maybe find your purpose first, we'll tell him. Find your purpose,
That's a
and then
good
if
one.
it evolves into a YouTube channel, then there we go.
I'm going to take a photo whilst we're here, just for social
Oh,
media.
please do.
There you go. Sorry.
No, thank you. And so thank you so much, Sophie. I can't wait to find out more and hear more about your courses that are coming. Everyone go follow you and get themselves ready for school. So I've got loads of friends who have like school kids not yet at school. So I'm like going to send them your way.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been a great
Thank you.